150-pound finalist Cory Clark of Iowa. We'll start with an opening remark from Cory Clark and then take it away with questions, please.
An opening remark. It's a tough match. It was a good, hard-fought match. Wasn't pretty in my favor, but I got the W, and I'm always just out there to wrestle hard, and when I got out there I felt real loose and I felt relaxed and I felt really good. And when I'm feeling that way, I'm tough to beat. I mean, I may not hit the prettiest shot or I may not hit the legs and finish, but I'm tough to beat, and I think that showed.
Cory, you've had some really close matches that haven't gone in your favor this year. What's the difference tonight as you head to another close one?
I'm not a big fan of making excuses, but you know, I sat out a good portion of the year, and I'm the type of guy that with competition, I feed off that and I feel progress. You know, you can see when you're out on the mat, your weaknesses show more so than in the practice room, because that's your competitive side wrestling out on the mat. Whereas in the room, you know, it's just kind of like your relaxed side. You're a different person when you're worked up, when the nerves are running through you. And I think getting lost in the question here a little bit, but more or less, I would just say, you know, repetition, getting competition, tough opponents, you know, facing some losses maybe even helped me out. Just little things like that keep me going, and when it comes to the end of the year, you really gotta, those last 2 weeks before the season's over, you really gotta figure out how you're gonna peak, and that's what I did. And I think, man, I may not peak to the Olympic champ that I want to be, but I peaked to the best I can be at this point in my life. Thank you.
Cory, you got a takedown in kind of a funky position where you were able to get the edge there, and then a few seconds later you're in the same position. Did it surprise you that you were able to get to that again, and that, you know, that ended up deciding the match?
I wind up in that position quite a bit. And it's funny you say that, because when I wrestled Michik, it was the same thing. He was in on that leg. I whizzer down real hard, kind of make him take the backside route. I straighten my leg and I come to that, you know, that hold that I wound up in. And it was back at the hotel, and I was talking to Gilman. And I told him, I said, isn't that crazy that I keep getting that takedown on guys? Because like, it's kind of a cheap, like almost like a lazy way of getting a takedown, but as it looks, but it takes a lot of hard work and energy. You know, it's not easy to do. But it's kind of cheap how they're in so deep and you wound up scoring on them. You know, you got to think what that does to a guy mentally. But I used to do that to Gilman all the time. So not all the time, but I used to get like good guys in the room like that. Ramos, Gilman, get guys like that with that same move. So I brought it up to Gilman. I'm like, ain't it crazy that I keep hitting that on people? And he kind of like laughed at me because he knew I was pointing at him. But I don't know. It's just a move that I've got to in practice. And you know, you get on a big stage, you're having fun out there, and sometimes things show that you guys may not have ever seen out of me, but my coaches and teammates have seen me hit that stuff thousands of times. So much stuff I hit in the room that haven't even showed out in a match yet.
Cory, as far back as I can remember in your wrestling career, you've been a guy that the second time around against somebody, you've been able to make adjustments. If they've beaten you, it seems like the second go-round goes your way a lot better. What is it about getting your hands on somebody once that helps you make those adjustments the second go-round?
You know, when you open up a match, a guy grabs you, a guy does a certain thing to you, it alerts you, but that can almost be like harmful in a way, because it's like, then you're kind of like, your mind's wandering on it. Like someone hits a certain shot on you, or like they grab you real hard, you're like, oh, this guy's strong, but then your mind's not on the right thing. Your mind's on this guy's strong, or this guy, that was a good shot or whatever, rather than you're scoring. So maybe when someone, you know, you feel something, like the first time I wrestled Tomasello, he was surprisingly strong and he hand fought hard. So, you know, when I came out there and he grabbed, I was prepared, but when I came out there and he grabbed me and he started moving, it kind of shocked me a little bit, like, oh, this is going to be this or this. My mind's kind of, you know, working itself. Whereas today, just this, before the whistle even blew, I expected that, I knew that. So when that happened, didn't do nothing in my mind. It was just, I was completely myself, and I think that's a big part of what you're asking.
Cory, when the official raised your arm, it looked like a lot of pain. How much can you actually move that arm? If you cannot, how much has it changed your style?
Well, first of all, one of my main goals as a competitor is to show no pain, show no emotion, so that sucks that you noticed that hurt. But to be honest, we're in the national finals. It doesn't matter if you cut my arm off. It doesn't matter what kind of pain I'm in. It doesn't matter at this point. tomorrow's what matters, and I'm not gonna sit here and say this hurts or this hurts tonight. And once the tournament's over, I'll be glad to sit down with you to tell you about what hurts. Not to be an ass, but it's just kind of how I feel.
Cory, you've gotten yourself to this position 2 other times. What needs to be different tomorrow night for the outcome to be different than the last 2 years?
I mean, every year I've thought I was capable of winning this tournament. I thought I was the best guy at my weight when I put my best self out on the mat, and I think the same tonight. I think the same this year and tomorrow night. If I go out there and I put my best self out on the mat, if I come out the way I want to, there's no questions in my mind. Am I going to win that match? Of course I'm going to win that match. But you never know who's going to show up, and that's in your control. In the last few years, maybe I don't know. I don't really pinpoint what got the best of me. That's this little thing. It's such slight things you can't really put it down. Like say exactly what it is. Otherwise, everyone would be winning national championships. So it's just, I think, just staying relaxed and just making sure you're ready, you're warm, you're hot, and once you got all those things figured out, then you can relax. And you can relax all the way up until your match, and then when you get fired up in your match and your lungs are going, you're fine. Your lungs are ready, they're warm, they're hot. So I think as long as I can do that, I'll be fine. And I just want to perform to my best, I just want to compete, and I want to be my best self out there and show some people what I can do.
Cory, 2 years ago, while you were wrestling for national title, your opponent tomorrow night was on your team and in a jail in Iowa.
Yeah.
How crazy is it that you're going to end your career against Seth Gross, and what do you think about that matchup?
I mean, that's crazy to think about it the way you say it, but I think 2 years has gone by, and I think he's matured a lot, and I think he's he's formed himself into what he wants to be. Back then he was he was a red shirt. He wasn't really wrestling for a purpose or whatever. So I'm not gonna take him. I'm not gonna sit here and say, oh, he's a screw off, or he doesn't have the frame of mind I have because maybe he didn't 2 years ago. But I'm not gonna take him lightly because of any of those reasons. I know he's a warrior. I know he wants to win this national championship, and I know he'd love to stick it up my you-know-what. So, I mean, that's my job, and no one else can control how that match goes other than me. My coaches have prepared me for it, but it's all in my hands from here out.
Cory, so tomorrow you have Seth Gross in the finals. Real tough on top. Maybe take us through kind of what you're thinking, maybe in a tight match tomorrow, if it's your choice.
I'm choosing down. That's what I've went my whole life. I wrestled plenty of guys that were tough on top. I mean, Nashawn Garrett, how many guys did he tilt up and turn? I mean, we could go back and watch last season. I'm pretty sure he tilted up and turned just about everybody he wrestled. When I wrestled him, it's the only points I scored. I had 6, 7 escapes on him, pretty quick too. So I'm never going to shy away from where I'm good. I'm a solid wrestler in all positions. And when I'm on bottom, I wrestle Dan Dennis freaking twice a week, and he can tilt just about anybody. And me and Dennis, I'll go down. He'll wrestle until either he tilts me or I get away. And this is nothing prepared for Gross. It's just us having fun. We'll wrestle till he either tilts me or I get away. And then when I get away, I go, you down. And then he goes down until I turn him or he gets away. And then we switch. And we'll do that for 5 times each, back and forth. Just something fun to do. So I feel confident in my bottom position. And I know he's tough on top. I know he can tilt guys. I know he wants me to choose neutral. I know that's a mental edge for him, maybe, is his top game, but you can't forget I'm pretty tough on top too, and you can't forget I'm pretty tough on bottom too. So
That'll be all for Cory Clark of Iowa. Thank you.